Good afternoon, everybody. We are realizing slowly that the resources of our planet are limited and that we cannot go on with our take, make, and dispose mentality. Finding circular solutions is crucial. But what is circular economy compared to a linear economy? And how can businesses change their models to become more circular? And what are actually the innovative ideas of young startups in Turkey and in Switzerland to make the world more circular? It's a great pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, moving from a linear to a circular economy, challenges and opportunities. This webinar has been organized in collaboration with the Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Istanbul and is embedded in our webinar series that we organize in turns with our colleagues from the German and Austrian embassies. My name is Ariane and I'm the Counsellor for Economic and Cultural Affairs here at the Swiss Embassy in Ankara. And we are very glad today to have three very knowledgeable experts in the field of circular economy with us. As a first speaker, I would like to introduce Ms. Gulin Yucel. Gulin worked at IBM for many years before she turned to sustainability consulting. She is a founding partner of Brika Sustainability. Apart from her work as a consultant for businesses and individuals in planning a sustainable future, she is also a professor for management studies at Sabancı University, a visiting professor at 𝐊𝐈𝐍𝐺 University, and an active angel investor. Ms. Yucel is not only very active in her business, but she is also very active as a member of civil society. And she focuses in her work on equal opportunities for women and youth. And as a member of 𝐂𝐈𝐍𝐵, Women Entrepreneurs Association of Turkey, she has participated and worked on different projects related to the empowerment of women and combating climate change. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us, Gulin, today. As a second speaker, we have Nicolas Freudiger. He is a role model of a Swiss-born entrepreneur. Nicolas Freudiger is the co-founder of Genève Watches. He knew from early childhood on that he wanted to become a watchmaker. He learned all about marketing and entrepreneurship at the renowned hospitality management school in Switzerland, l'École hôtelière in Lausanne. He also worked as a digital and e-commerce manager at Coca-Cola. To realize his idea of combining circularity, sustainability with entrepreneurship, he co-founded the new circular Swiss-made brand 𝐂𝐈𝐍𝐺. 𝐂𝐈𝐍𝐺 was named the winner in the watches, jewelry, and accessories category of the Luxury Innovation Awards in 2021 at the Innovation Summit in Geneva. Thank you, Nicolas, for being here with us today too. As a third speaker, last but not least, we have Mr. Tunç KARABAYER. He is very active in the field of sustainability and circular economy. After several years of sales and marketing and business development experience, he founded the startup 𝐻𝐕𝐈 that focuses on food waste. He is also the founder of the Economy 101 platform to raise awareness about circular economy in Turkey. He is a member of the Global Shapers community. This is the youth initiative of the World Economic Forum. And just last Saturday, he has organized a very successful event here in Ankara, the Scale 360 Circular Innovation Day, where young startups could introduce their own ideas and business models on circular economy. Thank you very much, Tunç, to also be here and tell us about the startup scene here in Ankara. Before we start, I just would like to say, to tell you a few organizational points. First of all, the speakers will give their speeches. They will take about between 10 and 15 minutes, and then you will have time to ask your questions. This Q&A session will also take 20 to 30 minutes. So please, if you have any questions, if they pop up in your mind right now or later on, please put them in the field that you see below. And with no further ado, I would like to give the word to you, Gulin.
Thank you very much, Ariane, and thank you to all of you. I'm presenting you from Istanbul. This is a very sunny, clear day. I'm sure the Swiss Alps and the European Alps are in great snow, and I am missing it so much since the beginning of COVID. But my greetings to all of you. Well, in 15 minutes, I would like to present you a perspective of what a linear economy is and why we need a circular economic order as soon as possible. Well, this is a very long discussion, but I'll try to make it very crisp so that it gives us the opportunity to talk about the further engagements around the topic. Well, linear economy is there since the beginning of my business life, beginning of 1990s. Basically, we take resources from the nature as if they are abundant. We use them for our production purposes. We consume them, and at the end of the consumption, we dispose them back to nature, assuming that the nature finds its way to handle the resources that we divest as waste. Basically, we define it as the linear economic model, taking off the raw materials and turning them into waste after their consumption, either as of industrial waste or household waste. Well, this kind of economic model or the perception of using materials from the nature has its consequences. I will talk about the two consequences. One is material extraction and use are climbing exponentially since 1972s or even further after 1990s. Well, 1972 is a milestone because this is when we started talking about limits to growth. This study was led by 4 MIT professors and Donella Meadows' team primarily. This study was initiated by a think tank called Club of Rome. At the study, called by Limits of Growth, it was said that if we continue to use world's planet's resources like the way we were using then, we were to come to a depletion of resources by 2070s. This study was redone after the Paris summit by Stockholm Resilience Center, and Limits to Growth is more of a terrifying figure at the moment. And the deadline we have is, if we are to use planet's resources like we are using today, the world we know of will not be the same world order after 2050s. So this is a big warning sight. Despite these warnings, the use of materials is tremendously increasing. And we are, again, organizing summits, COP21, the Paris Summit, COP26, the Glasgow Summit. I'm sorry. But still, the use of resources is growing. The consequences to economy is also there. Just have a look at the extraction we are doing due to the technology improvements. But while the technology is improving, the demand is so much that the prices of the raw materials are also exponentially increasing. So the right side is showing that the material prices are on a steep rise despite over extraction. This is a warning sign for our economies, for the industries, because on average, the cost of industrial production is 60 to 80% of industrial production cost is based on materials. And this is the time where the extraction is growing exponentially. Just try to imagine what it would happen to it. It would happen to the prices if we cannot extract as much. So the problem is the supply is limited and demand is expected to increase under existing consumption patterns. The population is also on the increase. We are about to reach over 11 billion people by the end of the century. And currently, this is an alarming figure, we are using 1.7 Earths, as if we have 1.7 Earths. This means that we are using the resources of the coming generations. This is 60% more of the Earth's resources than it can regenerate every year. And more than 90% of biodiversity loss is due to the extraction and processing of natural resources. 67% of greenhouse gas emissions are related with material management. So this is really alarming. The other side of the coin is, which is the second problem, we are wasting too much of the planet's resources. In one meaning, we are moving from mass production to mass destruction. Waste is of people, because in nature there is no concept as waste. We as humans have generated it. We are producing over 2 billion tons of municipal waste annually. And this is with at least 33% that is not managed in an environmentally safe manner. And this is the official number that municipalities are handling. Just imagine the not so developed parts of the world. The waste over there is not managed by municipalities. So in theory, the waste is much bigger than 2 billion tons. Despite this, of the 5% of materials that is actually gets turned into a product. So we are extracting so much, using so much of the planet's resources, but only 5% are turning into a product. 80% of it becomes just waste after a matter of weeks. Just have a look at around yourself. The yogurt cups, the masks we are wearing, we are turning them into waste within a matter of weeks, really. And we are creating this much waste, but 1/3 of it goes to waste, food waste, while 1 out of every 9 people is hungry. 60% of food in North America goes to waste. With the annual food waste that is coming from Europe, you can actually feed 2 million people. We also have the concept of structural waste. European cars are used at 5% of their total existing time. 92% of the time they're just parked, and 3% they're being used in idle mode. Offices, we know the picture. Electronic waste is a very big problem. Textile waste is again a very big problem. We believe that the young people are more conscious of it, but they are also, they like consumption when it comes to textile waste, and they turn their clothes for about 5 times. The bigger portion of the waste is again coming from high-income countries. What is a circular economy and why is it a solution? In a very nutshell, turning what we produce into waste is linear economy. Recycling economy is not very much different than a linear economy. We are just extending the time that we turn materials into waste. But in circular economy, there's no concept of waste. All the materials, all the resources are used over and over again. So we go back to how nature handles it. Where are we currently? Currently, our global economy is only 8.6% circular. And even when it comes to recycling economy, Europe can only recycle 12% of the materials it produces and uses. So we have a long way to go before we truly become circular. If we go into deeper into what circular economy is, basically you borrow from nature the raw materials and you borrow them responsibly. So you aim to, with the design you have, you aim to use less. So you make them, put them together into pieces, you turn them into products, you sell and deliver them. You don't normally sell them, but you lend the materials. And after the use, you try to extend the lifetime of the materials used. And after that, you try to, again, repurpose them. If you cannot reuse them, you try to repurpose them, use it with a similar purpose, or regenerate them. And if there is nothing else you can do, the last resort is recycling. You turn them into materials again. This is really the last resort because for recycling, you use energy to actually bring those used materials into again, the material phase, and you use energy again to produce them into some other meaningful material. So basically, recycling is the last resource here. You see the dotted lines here. The dotted lines, there is always going back and forth between the phases, and that's where the opportunities for businesses are, because these dotted lines meaning business opportunities for economies. I will not get into further detail of this, but basically the principles are: we eliminate waste and pollution by careful design. We circulate products and materials at their highest value. And if we cannot do that, we regenerate meaning and we give them back to nature responsibly. Well, again, for economies, this is where the advantages, where the opportunities are. According to an Accenture report that was done a few years back, the circular economy constitutes a $4.5 trillion opportunity of growth. And with it, there comes 6 million new jobs by 2030. So this is the revenue growth we should expect by 2030. For the purposes of time, I will not be getting into these specific pillars, but if there are questions, we can actually get into those. The other advantages of circular economy are direct sourcing. So with the COVID crisis, we actually saw the problems that might happen due to over-globalization of economies. But circular economy is bringing forward closed-loop business practices, local ways of doing business. The informational value and innovation. You actually have the opportunity to know the functioning, the quality of your production, of your products, and of your supply chain in general. And the environmental value. We have the opportunity to improve the emissions, global greenhouse gas emissions from 39 to 45% just by making our use of materials more circular. So basically, this is a concept design problem, and the transition to sustainable futures calls for new ways of designing that are based upon a deep understanding of how to design for change and transition within complex systems. The human creativity can do a lot better if we see the circularity as a primary design concept. And during the last few minutes of my speech, I'd like to talk to you about business research we did for the Dutch government in Turkey. This was about circular textile. So the Dutch enterprise agency, 𝐅𝐑𝐻𝐕𝐈, wanted to know how circular was the Turkish textile business. And with that, they had the expectation of knowing the opportunities for collaboration that the Dutch businesses could work with the Turkish textile companies. So we did a field research, not only with the Turkish textilers, that they were representative in size. We did field research with companies that constituted 11% of Turkish textile exports. Plus, we consulted with the Dutch parties to know about the consumption patterns in the Dutch market for textiles. You see in those spider charts, well, you don't have to actually get into reading them, but just see that the consumption patterns and the production patterns are very similar. So the bottom line of this research is saying that, you know, both consumption and production patterns for circularity are very inefficient. We can't see it as a production problem, but we have to see it as a consumption and the production problem. And these are basically where the opportunities are. The lines, the straight lines are constituting where the relationship is existing, from fiber production to fabric, from garment, from retail, consumption, and then disposal. We see clear patterns of linearity. But if we are to question, and you know, when we question the circularity of the processes, we saw great loops. And basically, these loops constituted the opportunities to collaborate. You can read through them in the detailed report, but the blue lines are the interests of the Turkish textilers to work with the Dutch parties, and the orange ones are the topics that the Dutch said, yes, we want to work with the Turkish textile parties. I would love to extend this research into other fields and, you know, maybe dig into each of these areas because we need the data from the field to look into opportunity areas, collaboration areas. Well, this was said for this report, but I'm assuming that the collaboration between Switzerland and Turkey might also sound similar in many ways. For when it comes to circular ways of doing business, Turkey is offering, this was again for textile, but vertical integration of processes, geographical advantage being a nearshoring potential for Europe, European consumption understanding, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the recycling facilities for textiles. We did not look into other areas, but the entrepreneurial leadership and are for doing investments, new investments in circular economy. So I'd like to end here.
Thank you very much, Gulin, for this overview over opportunities and challenges. I think it was very impressive that we need 1.7. We are using over 1.5 Earth right now. We really have to change, but also about the opportunities and the gains we could have out of a circular economy model. Now I would like to hand the word to Nicolas Freudiger, who is one of the creative ones. As you said, we need human creativity. We will hear more about that now.
Very well. Can you hear me well? Perfect. So hi, everybody. My name is Nicolas Freudiger. Thank you, Ariane, for the invitation today. Very glad to participate in events that actually showcase circular economy startups or projects. I think, as we've seen the presentation of Gulin, the world is in a bad shape, and I think for us, our opinion is that circular economy can actually alleviate this problem in terms of scarcity of raw materials. So today I'm going to talk to you about luxury watches. We all know Swiss-made watches, of course. It's the Switzerland's top 2, so the second biggest export industry in Switzerland. So it's quite a big industry, and it was quite ambitious from us to launch another new brand. But we see that actually as a highly symbolic object. I always say that a watch is not much in terms of volume, but I think it has a role to play and has a role as well to raise awareness on different problematic worldwide. And this is what we decided to do with this watch. So first, a few words about the team. So the team, there are 3 of us who are the 3 co-founders. We have the different set of skills to launch a watch brand. So one is the designer with a lot of experience designing watches. Cedric is a good friend as well. We've grown up together in Geneva and is a watchmaker. And myself, I'm more of the digital marketer and really leading as well the project on the watches. Together, we decided to build the most eco-innovative watches. So the idea here is to foster innovation for ecology. So to build a watch with the least impact possible. So first, a few words on the luxury industry. The luxury industry is changing rapidly nowadays. If I told you that Porsche 10 years ago would build 100% electrical vehicle, and no one would have believed that. Again, Leonardo DiCaprio, the Wolf of Wall Street, as being the #1 advocate for climate change is as well surprising. And last but not least, you have Hermès, the #1 leader in terms of savoir-faire, and created a bag made out of mushroom leather. So we see there's a shift as well in the industry, in the luxury industry. And when we look at the data as well, so the market data, we see that there's a lot of recommendations to innovate for circularity, or on the latest Deloitte report on the industry, that the future is circular. So what does it mean actually circular? So here for us, it's really about showcasing opportunities. And when I talk about opportunities, I talk about economical opportunities, but that have positive externalities. So we'll see it with our project. We were recently mentioned as well in the New York Times as one of the best practice within the industry in terms of circularity and responsible sourcing. So when we talk about circular economy, for me, there is one word. It's the word ecosystem. So here you have it. Of course, we will not go into details today, but I'll take you through the top line initiatives. So first, what we did is really to work with this syllab RE, so to repurpose, to repair, to reuse. And actually, we go through the presentation with this syllab in mind. So first, the RE for recycled. The watch case is made out of 100% recycled stainless steel. This is the first time within the industry. And this stainless steel is traceable from the waste to the luxury products. So that means we set up a network of collection in Jura. So this is the rural part of Switzerland. And about 40 companies actually give us their waste, as you've seen in the picture. They give us their waste. And from this waste, we track it, we isolate it, and we certify it as well as having an impact 10 times lower than the industry average. Here for us, it's very important to showcase that, and it's certified. We work with Quantis here in Lausanne to certify this impact. We've as well marked the watch case here on the back with this 4441. That means this is a very high quality of stainless steel. And this 4441 is marked exactly where usually the 18-karat gold is marked. So this is really a sort of putting value on this waste as much as we put value on gold. That's the idea of being the new gold of Switzerland. In terms of RE, now we go into residue. Here, all of our straps are made out of 80% wine residue. So this is, we collaborate with a startup in Milano that creates that. So post-vinification, we use the grape skins and we dry them, and then we melt it together to create this alternative to leather, which uses only about 1% of what a leather, animal leather would use. We're coming up as well this year with a new strap as well from residue. This strap will be 100% made out of vegetable compost and as well recyclable at the end of the life cycle. So here we work with Biophilica. It's a startup in London, working as well with this alternative to leather. Now, in terms of recyclability, our packaging is as well constructed in a way where we respect the luxury experience of the watchmaking, but here we have this added compostability. So the base you see on the picture is made out of mushroom. So this is a startup as well based in London, where you can take it when you receive the watch and you can compost it in your backyard and it will disintegrate within 45 days. And the idea here is really to keep the travel pouch in the middle, which is made out of wine residue as well. Then in terms of mechanical movements, so we use only certified refurbished movements, so that we source from old stocks. We take them from old stocks and we refurbish them through the work of Swiss watchmakers. And we make sure that the quality is actually very, very high in terms of the standards. Replace, here we design the watch with a modular and evolutive design. The idea here is really always to focus on extending the life cycle of the product as much as we can. We like this sentence, which is about having maximum responsibility on the product. We push out of the manufacturer, because I think this is our role as a circular startup. The evolutive design here is made, so that you can change you don't need to buy a second watch, but you can really actually work with the watch. And this watch will last at least 100 years, so that's very powerful today that this product can last over 100 years old. For the repair, actually, we use digital, as a way to extend the life cycle as well of the product. So we've coded a platform where you have circular coins on this platform. So what does it mean? Is that when you buy the watch, actually we take an amount of money that we set aside for future services on the watch itself. The idea here is really to give an incentive to our community to come back to us and repair, maintain, or modulate the watch. We've got as well a second-hand option where you can actually, within 5 days, you can receive an offer, sort of a buyback offer from us. You know, making sure you don't put the watch in the drawer and you don't use it actually. So we'd rather have it back and put back in circulation. Of course, then we have a respect for local production. I mean, with COVID, we've seen that our economies are globalized, but circular economy, if I take the words of the Federal Environment Institution in Switzerland, it's a good medicine for a pandemic. So to work with as well something that is close by, and actually we're interested as well in Turkey and what we could do because it's quite close to Switzerland, much more than Asia, for example. So respect here for local production. So we were very transparent as well, as you've seen on the map. Everything is showcased where we do each activity of the watch. So how did we launch? Actually, we were a very young brand. We could launch during as well COVID time. So we had limited numbers of people who could assist to the event. We did that through crowdfunding. We wanted to test the market as well to see if they were ready for a recycled luxury watch. And actually it worked very well for us. We reached the objective within 48 hours and could have an event as well in Zurich for the launch and different showrooms in Geneva, Lausanne, Bern and Basel. So mostly local at the moment. We always said this is a bit of our mission. Really, our mission through what we do every day is really to accelerate the transition. We want the watchmaking industry to play an active role in the ecological transition. So how do we do that? So first, we get involved. We get involved with politics. So we were in Bern last summer as well during the first inter-parliamentary session about circular economy in Switzerland. Which goals do we set each other, you know, for Switzerland in terms of circularity? So it was quite an interesting day where we presented as well our results for one of the biggest industry in Switzerland. The second point is really about collaboration. We see that this will drive the change, and we've collaborated with different festivals. So the Conscious Festival, which is in Paris, and the Alpinagstadt, which is the most eco-innovative resort in Switzerland. Then we talk with the industry. We're very close to the big names, the big groups in the luxury field, and we always make sure to involve them in what's coming, and we try to be the best example of circularity. And then last but not least, recognition. We were named as one of the nominees in the Design Prize Switzerland category, Going Circular Economy, and won the Luxury Innovation Award last October in Geneva. Thank you very much. I mean, that's it for me, and happy to answer any questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolas. Also very impressive, and I have to say you have so many awards. I've just picked one when I introduced you, and really your work is very there is everything in it, like the production, how it can be handed back as well to the producer, and also that you have this political initiative. I think that is a very perfect combination. And now I would like to give the word to Tunç for your speech.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm just sharing my screen. I guess you can see the screen, right? Okay. Hi again. I'm Tunç KARABAYER and wanted to say that I'm really honored to be here. As Ariane informed my background very well, I will just start to my presentation, which is about brief explanation about what is circular innovation and what should we expect from the future with the circular economy by giving examples from our Scale 360 project and other good examples of startups and business models about circular economy, both in Turkey and globally, which will be a good end speech, I guess, after all other presentations. So in the beginning of 2021, World Economic Forum started the Scale 360 Circular Innovation Initiative. The program aims to mobilize action among innovators, governments, civil society, and private sector stakeholders to grow the ecosystem for circular innovation while supporting the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And in the first phase of the Scale 360, 4 Global Shapers hubs were selected to conduct the pilot program in the first half of the 2021. And in June 2021, Forum started to get applications for the next cohort, and 10 hubs all around the world, the Global Shapers hubs all around the world, have been selected among 450 applications. And I'm proud to say that Ankara is one of the 10 hubs among those Global Shapers hubs. And the locations with stars are the cities which have been selected for the Scale 360 program. And on the other hand, you can see some bigger dots in the map, which are representing the national programs with several different nations, such as Kenya, United Arab Emirates, Chile, Argentina, and so on. And as you can understand from the map, the Scale 360 program is a program fast tracks fourth industrial revolution impact in the circular economy by bringing together public and private sector leaders and innovators to jumpstart collaboration for the circular innovation. So before getting into the details of what we did in Turkey in the context of Scale 360, I guess it will be much better to talk about what is innovation. The ecosystems actually are networks of interconnected stakeholders exchanging value. You can think an ecosystem as a jungle, and in that it involves lots of different stakeholders, each with their own role in the greater system. And in different local regions, ecosystems will look different. And the key is that they are not controlled by one central party, but rather mutually nurtured and supported for the collective health. And the innovation ecosystem is set in motion when a common opportunity or challenge arises, which includes many different stakeholders, such as companies ranging from small enterprises to multinational corporations and institutions with local, national, or global reach, which are in need of circular solutions in our context. Individuals are the other stakeholders and other organizations that demand public goods and pay for them as end users. And of course, organizations and individuals involved in enabling circular practices through investment, the collection, sorting, product life extensions, resource optimization, professional services as the enablers. So the main purpose of the Scale 360 is to be a part of the solution in this jungle to circular economy problems with gathering all stakeholders of the innovation. I guess another critical concept in the innovation system is the value chain. A value chain is a network of stakeholders who exchange value directly or indirectly through producing, consuming, collecting, or reusing public goods. And for the purposes of innovation, value chain stakeholders are the problem owners, which are rooted in the existing system and could become producers, buyers, or the enablers to the circular transition. And it's helpful to illustrate and map out the goods and stakeholders active in a value chain, because a single organization cannot transform an entire value chain from linear to circular, obviously. As we know that we are in a transition process which needs a system change, we have an innovation, let's say, a framework to support us. The innovation process provides a systematic way of defining new business opportunities while de-risking the most high-risk assumptions. You can see the innovation framework for the system change begins with the integrity and impact, which states the clear problem and the impact statement. And after that, we have the desirability, as it is the biggest risk to an innovation in respect to the human factor. Then we can see the viability, since business needs to be able to capture some of the created value for the solution to be adopted. And last but not least, the feasibility. Once the desirability and the viability are established, there can be different ways to achieve it feasible. And you can see that all four perspectives are not independent from one another, and the key to success, the so-called innovation sweet spot you can see in the middle, is located at the intersection of all four. Another important insight for the innovation, but this time for the product change, which we used in our Scale 360 Circular Innovation Turkey program as well. In 2017, at the request of the Dutch Minister of Infrastructure and the Environment, PBL, Netherlands Environmental Assessment Agency, and the Utrecht University have explored ways to measure progress of a transition towards a circular economy specifically for the product chains. The circular economy transitions may need innovation and socio-institutional change, and innovation can take place in technology, product design, and revenue models. And following this, the socio-institutional change involves reviewing written and unwritten rules, customs, and beliefs, of course. There are three types of circular economy transitions, which was distinguished by the PBL, with regard to the use of technology in product chains. The first one is the circular economy transition, in which the emergence of specific, radically new technology is central and shapes the transition. The specific technology around which a product is centered, and the socio-institutional change is needed to give the new technology a place in the middle of the society. A typical example is the recent emergence of bioplastics, which has already secured this place, and I will give some examples from Turkey about the bioplastics as well in the following time. The second one is the circular economy transition, in which the socio-institutional change, which is central and where technological innovation plays a secondary role. Maybe a good, maybe a somewhat extreme example is that packaging-free shops. We don't have it right now, I guess, in Turkey. And the third one is the circular economy transition, in which the socio-institutional change is central but are facilitated by the enabling technology. An example is the transition to what has become known as the sharing economy, actually. This transition from owning a product to purchasing its services primarily involves socio-institutional change, but it's obvious that it's not possible without information technology to link service providers and the users. According to these insights, actually, we have prepared a project for Scale 360 Circular Innovation Turkey, focusing on the startups to offer a detailed ecosystem research about circular economy, specifically in Ankara, but of course, considering the Turkey as a whole. And we found that there will be several different opportunities that we can intervene with our project and have a huge impact. And however, as I'm an entrepreneur as well, and we have other entrepreneurs in the Global Shapers Ankara Hub, we ended up to create a program to help startups and let them to be a pioneer in the transition process for circular economy in Turkey, with the goal in a business context, of course, is to make startups, scale-ups, and entrepreneurs to have a higher chance of success. So what we did is a program with two main phases. In the first phase, I gave insights and general understandings of what is circular economy and what opportunities it will offer for the startups that we have selected for the program. And the main goal is to equip the selected startups with a common level of understanding of what the circular economy is and how it functions in the broadest sense. In the next steps of the first phase, we had one-on-one workshops with each startup to understand their business flows and find out the opportunities to create value, which can be turned into a circular business model. Of course, the most important part of these workshops are the analysis of the needs of the startups to avoid the challenges that they will have in this transition process. And after the first phase, we started to connect those startups with the network of World Economic Forum and our network in Turkey in order to start the possible collaboration with corporate companies, which were defined in the one-on-one workshops specific for the needs of the startups. And as you can understand, this process is an ongoing process, of course, which we are still working on to linking the startups with brands and initiatives right now. And as Ariane mentioned earlier, on the 12th of February, the last Saturday, we have completed our demo day where startups actually completed their pitch decks, not just for the investment, because we are not just an incubator center, but to specify their gainings about circular economy in the program. So this is the general insight from our project in order to give you an impression on how to follow the path in this transition process from linear to circular economy. I guess I would like to share the steps that we use in Turkey and some other locations in Germany, UK, and Switzerland while working with the global startups as my other initiative, Circular Economy 101. As we have prepared a roadmap for the startups as Circular Economy 101 platform with a global team, we first of all try to analyze the current business model of the startups. And as I mentioned before, understanding the current business model is giving us detailed information about the value propositions that startups have at the moment. And after that, we are looking to the business flows, not just only to the product that they have, but also the other business flows, such as the collecting resources, production processes, distribution processes, and sales. And however, in contrast to the linear economy, the most important part of creating a successful circular business model is to consider the usage and the after-use flows as well. So you can think that in linear economy, producers do not consider, they don't have to, what will happen while and after the usage of the product or the service that they offer, which is the main reason for the vast amounts of waste that we have right now. And understanding each and every business flow detail leads us to find out the possible value propositions that may have been ignored before. And finding out the possible new values is the key to find the right business model to implement in our startup, as you can see in the third step. So when you find the correct circular business model for you, you have to understand the possible challenges that you might have and to understand the impact that you will have as well. And in the last step, the ecosystem research is mandatory to find out the best practices. And please do not forget that the circular economy is not offering you to make inventions, but to find innovative solutions to the problems which was ignored for the last, let's say, 300 years because of as a result of the linear economy. And of course, the ecosystem research allows us to find new sectors to offer our circular value propositions, which will help us to create more impact with our circular business models. These 5 steps actually can be used for every startup, for every business without considering their main sector. And maybe they can be a producer for the textile sector, maybe they can be an enabler for the food sector, inspect their innovative value propositions. That is why the collaboration is the key element on the transition process to the circular economy. So before completing my speech, I would like to show you some of the good examples of the circular economy business models from our Scale 360 project in Turkey and some examples from the multinational big companies to give you a brief vision about how the future could be designed with the circular economy. So first of all, in the left side, I would like to mention about the Bionova. Bionova works on the conversion of industrial food and agricultural waste into the high-value products such as enzymes and bioethanol, as it is a good example for upcycling, which is the most important R strategy that we have to implement into all our business flows. Producing enzymes and biofuels are consistent chemical use, which is eliminated by Bionova's innovative production processes. And additionally, of course, bioethanol can be used at to end the fossil fuel usage as well. The other startup, which is in the right-hand side, is the Oxypom. They are using pomegranate waste as a resource to produce the high-value antioxidants, which is an important material for lots of different products in health and cosmetics sector. And as you can see, the food waste can be turned into a value in another sector as a high-value product. And Oxypom also decreases the cost of antioxidants by getting it from the waste, which will help their customers to increase their profits while decreasing the prices for the end users as well. The following startup is based in Turkey as well. 𝐿 is a biotechnology enterprise that designs and develops the production process of bio-based plastics and produces bio-based granules by just using the olive seeds. As you can see from the startups that I've mentioned, creating a high-value product from food waste is a very good example of the circular economy. And as it was stated several times, waste is a resource in circular economy to keep the materials in the loop. So just quick examples before finishing my presentation. When we look at the global examples of circular business models, I guess Renault can be seen as a pioneer in the automotive industry, as they have Europe's first circular economy factory for vehicles. In respect to their circular economy vision, Renault actually aims to extend the life of vehicles and components and keep materials in use, thereby reducing the use of virgin materials. And they actually achieve those goals in different parts of the manufacturing processes and across different brands remanufacturing vehicle components such as gearboxes and turbo compressors, and increasing recycled plastic content and creating a second life for the electric batteries. which will be the future of the automotive industry, I guess. And the last example is from another multinational company, is the H&M Group. Is there a partner of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation since 2015? They announced their circular economy and climate positive ambition with the aim of implementing a circular economy across its entire business. And their aim is to redesigning every stage of the life cycle of a garment across all its brand and operations that supports how people access these garments. And as they have created a strategy to develop a circular ecosystem based on the 3 pillars, as you can see on the left side, as the circular products, they are creating products that are made to last from safe, recycled, and more sustainable sourced materials that they can recirculate multiple times. And in the second one, the circular supply chains, they are designing the systems that recirculate products and support the circular production processes and material flows. And last but not least, in the circular customer journeys, they are providing accessible ways to experience and engage in circular fashion, where products are used more, repaired, reused, and recycled. So as you can see, circular economy is developing in a fast track globally, and hopefully we will have a better understanding of it by seeing it as a way of thinking rather than just some strategies. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions, I would like to share it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tunç. Yes, I think it is a change in thinking, more or less, and there has to be done a lot. Just to remind the audience as well, this webinar will be recorded if you ask your questions. I just want to go into the first 2 questions that we have already received on our chat. And the first one is from Faruk Bey. He is asking, considering the growth in technology within the ongoing years, do you think that circular economy can be applied to technological goods, since the technological goods become outdated after certain years? It can be recycled, but it has been said that it has to be the last choice to recycle goods in, I think, your presentation, Gulin. What can be the choice in order to adapt technological goods into circular economy? I would like to give this question to Gulin, please.
Thank you, Faruk Bey. This is a great question. Actually, it was in one of my files, but I couldn't have the time to go over it. Well, materials in circular economy, we don't call them as materials, but rather nutrients, because they are really feeding in to the system. And technological aspects, the parts manufacturing is very much in compliance with circular economy, really. With parts, if you can, but the starting point needs to be the design. You have to design in such a way that initially you can maintain them, and secondly, you can reuse them, meaning that if you have an update on your product and the update regards only a small component of the whole product, why do you need to change the whole product? You can just change that specific part to bring some updates on your product, make it better or service it better. It can be applied to very easily to technological devices, watches, as we have seen in Nicolas' case. So yes, the answer is yes. The technological parts manufacturing type of businesses can very quickly be adapted to circular economy principles. And there are some very good opportunities, business opportunities, if you intend to do it. Just imagine that, you are, yes, selling a new product, but 80% of that product is primarily materials cost. what if you don't have to, sell a new product, but just bring an update to it without bearing the material cost? This is a very good business case if you intend to do it. So it's basically business design. Everything starts with design. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gulin, for your answer. I think I would like to ask also Nicolas if you have something to add.
I've just so I agree with Gulin. I think the design part, I think it's important. We talk about responsibility. This is where we change the DNA of a company. Is going from linear to circular. Circular is really making sure what happens in the at the end of the life cycle. And a good example for me in technology, I always use this example, but it's the Fairphone. The Fairphone, you can change some part. If the camera is broken, you can change only this part. If you need to replace the battery, you can do that. I think there are some opportunities and some initiatives, I think, in tech as well for circular economy, definitely.
Thank you very much for this contribution. Then we have another, it's more, I think, a statement, but I want to read it. It's interesting. Serhat Bey is saying, considering Dr. Gulin Yücel's presentation, waste can be regarded as an energy source. There is an innovative integrated waste management case in Ankara that generates electricity from municipal wastes at 2 biogas power plants. The CEO of this company told in a keynote lecture in a conference that the idea came from a Swiss businessman that he met on the plane. I think this is a good example of collaboration of Turkey and Switzerland for circular economy. I agree fully. Actually, when I came here to Ankara about 2 years ago, we went to see, to visit this company, and it was very impressive. They produce biogas, and actually the whole shopping mall next to it, IKEA, it's quite big. It's all, the energy is coming actually from this waste factory. So this is a very nice sign of collaboration between Switzerland and Turkey, and somehow we are so proud of it that we consider this to be kind of a Swiss company as well. So thank you for this comment of yours. Then we have another question from Burak Bey. Ms. Yücel mentioned the huge consumption amount globally. In this regard, how can we consider fossil fuel consumption? Can technologies that decrease this consumption contribute to the circular economy?
The answer is sure, of course. And it's not only regarding circular economy, but we have to actually convert to renewable energies and eliminate fossil-based energy consumption. Circular economy is again emphasizing this. So one of the principles is, well, you have to, get rid of, you have to be producing with renewable energy. So at the end of the day, the essence is make no harm to the society. And we can't be using nature's resources that took nature millions to years to produce, and then consume it in just a few hours, days, years even. So that's definitely a violation. And circular economy is definitely saying that we have to be using renewable energy to produce responsibly.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to answer this question, Tunç or Nicolas?
Maybe I can add something, as an agreed with Ms. Gülin. You can think that the approaches that we're going to do in the future about the decreasing the fossil fuel consumption, the new things that we found is not just sustainable or the circular economy, circular by their names, because, for instance, for the electric cars, it's assumed that the electric cars will be much more heavier than the normal cars that we are using right now. and there will be much more usage of the components, the hardware components in the cars. So while decreasing the fossil fuel consumption, we are using more materials to build those cars. So as Gulin mentioned before, the circular economy is offering the system design. So it's not just a simple strategy that, okay, we just decrease the fossil fuel consumption by inventing the electric cars, but we have to think it as the way of thinking as a system change to implement that. Okay, we found these electric cars, and we understand each and every impact that we have in all the business flows that we have, starting from the extracting materials and the end of usage. So yes, technology and the new renewable energy approaches will decrease the fossil fuel consumption, but we have to be careful to understand what are the impact that we have for the other resources as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this statement. I mean, there are also, as I hear, kind of advantages and disadvantages, which leads me to the next question of Yeliz Hanem. She's asking, what are the disadvantages or issues of circular economy? Are there any disadvantages? So far, we said everything is better in the circular economy. To anybody who would like to answer it?
I can start probably. So there is quite some disadvantages, but I think for sure one is really it's really intensive in terms of research as well. Making sure. I always say it's about, in the end, it's about making sure the solution you create, as you call it, circular, that it's better than the status quo. That's the idea of proving it. So that's what we did. We worked with sort of the life cycle assessment we did on the stainless steel, for example, that we collected, and this was really intensive work for a startup. You can imagine that as a startup, you start with this on your to-do list, and so I think this can be really very, very hard to deal with as a circular startup. I think that was one example I had in mind.
Thank you very much. Gulin, would you like to add something?
I can actually try to answer it from a macro level. Well, nobody said transitioning to circular economy is going to be easy. It's a complex transition because we have established supply chains and ways of consumption. So if we want to bring in some levers for transitioning, we have to consider both the consumption patterns as well as the production patterns. When we were doing the textile study, the producers of the goods were saying that repair was not their responsibility because the goods were basically owned by the brands and then sold to consumers. But when we asked the question of, who can repair your product the best, the answer was, we can. But they just did not claim to repair their clothes because they totally decided to forget about those clothes because they were on the other side of the continent. So we have to basically change this philosophy of doing business. So we have to construct new chains of bringing services to how we take care of the goods, give meaning to our goods, extend the longevity of the products. So this requires the whole supply chain to be working together. That's one thing. And secondly, the consumption patterns. Nobody is going to produce you circular products if you, as a consumer, don't demand it. Now that I know about the Genève watches, I cannot, get anything that uses first-hand materials because it's in my system. So these type of connections from consumer to consumer, from community to community is very important. At the end of the day, no consumer consumes with the intention to do bad for the planet. but we just decide not to think about it. And therefore, the essence is we need to make ourselves aware of more responsible ways of consumption.
Thank you very much. This is very interesting from a macro perspective. And I think the question from Aisha goes very well with this, Aisha Hanım. She said, how do we encourage manufacturers to move towards circular economy products in order to improve existing products, not only creating new products, which may take time to generate? And that is actually, yes, it's already question a bit answer. It takes more time to generate, but as you said, they could repair it, but they don't want to repair it. They would like to reproduce it first. So what can we do to encourage them?
I'll just be very quick and then pass the floor to my colleagues, but don't buy from producers who don't do repairs or who use raw virgin materials when they're producing their goods. That's what I want to say.
Okay. Anybody else on this question?
I guess I can.
Go.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I can just want to support Ms. Gulin with the macro level, because as I graduated from sociology, I'm just focusing on the social level of circular economy transition as well. And maybe to that question specifically, I guess we need to understand not the disadvantage, but the challenges that we're going to face because of the linear economy. As you can think that linear economy is integrating all aspects of our lives, like from the production, from the consumption, and even if in the education system. For instance, you'll get the education, you will get we enter the exam, and everything's done for us. So we don't have all the processes in our lives is linear because of the linear economy, because of the way of thinking that we have. So that's why it's not easy to expect from the producers or the consumers to think that, okay, what should I do after the usage? Because they didn't actually learn about this. They didn't learn about the circularity. They didn't learn about what should we do after the end of use. So maybe we have to understand that circular economy is not just as I said, the specific strategies, the bunch of strategies for the sustainability, but it's a way of thinking that we must implement it all the aspects of our social lives globally. And maybe that will be a good support for the producers, for the manufacturers to change their business models as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tunç. Makes a lot of sense that it really has to be a universal thing and a change of thinking. There is one very straightforward question that I would like to ask you from Rubina Hanım. Do we not need to turn our attention more to organic production rather than recycle and reuse in circular economy to eliminate pollution or to reduce pollution? I would like to ask this to Nicolas, if you want to.
I think here I remember a sentence from somebody from Bühler Industry in Switzerland at a circular economy conference last year in Bern that said, at the moment, due to the world situation, I mean, there's no one option better than the other. I think every initiative that goes towards circularity, I think it's good to take, and we should encourage every opportunity that we have. So of course, I think there's stuff to be done in the design of products, in the way we use, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rubina, but I think you talk about organic production, meaning sort of can you probably define as well this element, because otherwise it might get confusing in my answer. But then recycle and reuse, I think both idea, at the end of the life cycle or before, in designing and then producing. I think this is the whole holistic approach what we discussed, and I think you should have this holistic approach on every initiatives. But again, we're we're not perfect yet. I think we're just at the start of doing that. What's interesting is actually the mindset we set ourselves. We were born in 2021, and we have a different mentality as the old linear economy. We really try to embed it into our DNA, to be circular in everything we do, especially, when we discuss with our web hosting supplier, we try even to be circular here, so it's not only on the product itself, but I think it will go beyond the products.
Thank you so much for this very holistic answer, I would say. That was interesting. So I am going to ask Faruk Bey's question. If I get it correctly, the main responsibility in order to pass to a circular economy is on companies. However, the product that a company produces is being bought by the consumers, which means that the good is owned by the consumer. So how can companies make contact with their consumer for the product to be adapted to the circular economy? That's a very good question. Who would like to answer it? Gulin, yes, please. You're on mute right now.
Sorry. Well, the thing is, circular economy promotes not selling the goods to your consumers, but renting them, leasing them to your consumers. In this way, you make sure that goods will come back to you at the end of their consumption with that specific consumer. You make sure that you receive the materials. Plus, you make sure that if, for example, the requirements of that consumer has changed, and that's why he or she is giving that product back to you, you have the chance to actually position another product service of yourself for that specific consumer or his or her need. So it's become a loyalty, it becomes a loyalty chain when you try to do that. So we are promoting not selling, but rather services type of transactions, renting, leasing.
Thank you, which is also a big shift of thinking, that you don't own the product, you just lease your washing machine and then you give it back or you repair it. But it's a very good idea, I would say. So we have another very interesting question from Oliver. How does circular economy apply to a company developing software? Do we have a software expert? Yes, Tunç?
Not an expert, but I have lots of different startups that I'm talking about circular economy business models, and we have one in the Scale 360 Turkey program as well. The digital actual software startups can be defined as the enablers in the circular economy transition. So they don't have to specifically focusing on a product, producing a specific material product, or they are not going to be in the flow of the waste management, but they can be in the process of the enabling by the avoiding the waste by optimization of these processes. For instance, that startup that we have in the Scale 360 is Solaris. So they are focusing on the optimization of the materials that should be used in the solar panel institutions on the top of the houses. So they will just analyze and digitalize the processes that which products, which components should be used and on those solar panels. In order to actually reduce the materials that they're going to be used, and in order to increase the efficiency of the solar panels as well. So the software companies should be in the process, and they have a very important role in order to enable the transition process while optimization or giving some data insights something like that. Yeah.
So thank you very much. So you're the enabler. It's very important to know that if you are a software specialist. There is one more question in the chat. We have about 5 minutes to go. I have a few other questions that came in by email that are also interesting to ask, but let's go with it. Serhat Bey to Gulin Yucel. Thank you for your informative presentation. As you mentioned, could you please give some examples of business opportunities for circular economies? Okay, that's a very broad question to you.
Yes, it's actually the topic for my book, which will come out in the next few months, Serhat Bey. So if you can actually, or our blogs are talking about circular economy business models for various different sectors. But in general, from linear economy, as I tried to show on the textile case, the dotted lines are the routes that business opportunities are. So establishing or connecting the dots in those dotted line scenarios is where the opportunities for businesses are. So, for example, if you have a business to repair certain parts from cell phones, and that's a totally undefined market opportunity. There you go with that service opportunity for repair, for reuse, for regenerate, repurpose, for recycle of both the technical nutrients, the technical materials, technological materials, and the biological materials. There are opportunities business-wise. So in general, you have to be connecting the dots to make the business flow circular. Whatever you are doing, in what kind of business or sector you are in, you have to see how to connect the dots in general. That's where $4.5 trillion opportunity for the next 9 months, 8 years are basically.
Thank you very much. So it leads back to the fact that you have to be creative and you have to adapt and be flexible as well. So Aisha has another question, and she says, Ms. Gulin has made a really good point in the products can be considered leased to consumers in the circular economy. This could be a very strong point for companies who can maintain ownership. That's actually you told us about it already. Would this be a good selling point to companies in the view of the speakers?
Well, in my perspective, there's no other way. The companies who are going to be sustainable, meaning present in the next 20, 30 years, have to find circular ways of doing business. Maybe Nicolas cannot say this boldly, but I can because I'm not a company in this sense. But there's no alternative. That's what I believe in.
Thank you. I have one question that was sent to us via email beforehand. I hope I'm not going to open a box of Pandora because we have only 5 minutes to go, but I think it's so important and interesting. What is the role of globalization in circular economy? Because as Nicolas said, during the pandemic, we saw producing locally is actually an advantage. Producing locally is actually global, is actually circular economy. So how do you see the role of globalization in that?
I'll jump in first, just to give you my perspective on that. But as you mentioned, Ariane, I think it's a box of Pandora. I mean, we could discuss an hour on this topic. But for me, I think we focus on ethics and we focus on what makes sense. For example, does it make sense to fly the hands of the watch, from Hong Kong to Geneva? Does it make sense, to manufacture a watch with a Japanese steel? And it's really to come back to what makes sense. I think for me, this is really what circular economy is about. And again, to a pandemic, we really see the advantage, of having a close neighbor to go visit, a supplier that is actually nearby, because then you're much more robust in terms of companies. And I agree with Ms. Gulin regarding the sort of opportunities in the future for circular startup. I always answer that actually we felt the responsibility to launch a brand like the 𝐷 Genève And I don't think there was any other choices in 2021. So I think that would be my answer. Yeah. Thank you.
Gulin, would you like to complete it? Because I think, I mean, you had this study with the Netherlands that you talked about. Are there also opportunities for globalization in the circular economy?
Well, the thing is, the ways or the technology sharing, know-how sharing needs to be, global again. And technology is a very big driver for circular transitioning. But the trading of materials, goods, or services need to be local. When we say local, we talk about, in general, 200 miles or 320 kilometers of sphere, ideally, if not regional basis. So we have to be trading, if we want to actually make good use of waste in an industrial way, we have to be working in closed loop communities, and community definition, as I said, is 200 miles. If we cannot do it in that, sphere, closed loop, and then regional basis. So the localization concepts need to be adapted for circular economy, but know-how sharing, technology sharing, information sharing needs to be global.
Now, sorry, we are coming to the end of this webinar. There is one more question that is also sent to us, and I think let's take it as the last question that we are going to answer today. What is the responsibility of businesses for encouraging governments to get prepared to the rules of circular economy, or how do we change the system? Nicolas, you said you're already in a parliamentary group, but what is your response? And I would like to ask each one of you, what is your remedy for this? Maybe I start with Nicolas.
Yeah, as you like. I think for us as startup, we like to consider ourselves as agitators. And I think we should have some agitators in every industry. Again, I like the holistic approach of Tunç, which is about, making, the people, so the academic world, the political world, the startup world, and the corporation as well, meet together, and work together. Of course, this is the ideal picture. But usually how it starts, I think innovation always comes from startups. We do things differently. We don't have any heritage. So the idea is really to foster those circular startups in all the industries. And today I give you one example, which is about luxury industry, but usually I participate in panels, and then you have really completely different other startups. I think we have this role of agitators, which is very important, because we define this business model, this from linear to circular. I think this is the whole aspect of what we do every day. And again, beyond the project itself, of course.
Thank you very much. I give the word to Tunç. But would you complete this? Or
yeah. Actually, I guess it's not fair to give all the responsibility to the companies, because, as I said, the transition to the circular economy needs to be more collaborative rather than before. And I guess each of the stakeholders in the society has their own responsibilities. And as we are trying to, as we started to increase the awareness on the circular economy of the individuals in Turkey, we are trying to, as Nicolas said, to try to link all stakeholders in the transition process in order to their needs. So the governmental departments, the government has their own responsibility, and if a startup needs anything from the governmental side, we are trying to link them between them. if a startup trying to have any needs from the companies, like some know-how or some collaboration opportunities, we are trying to link them between them. And of course, the main purpose that we have in the Circular Economy 101, we are trying to increase the impact that we have while increasing the knowledge about circular economy, because we know that the transition must start from the society, from the individuals that we are living together in the society. So yeah, I guess the responsibility that all of us have the responsibility, and we must work together in order to have this, achieve the transition, full transition of the circular economy.
Thank you very much. And Gulin, would you like to add something, or is everything said?
Well, sure. Most are said, of course. Well, the role of business is to identify the opportunity. And if the existing ways of doing business cannot be accommodated, then the government role gets very important. So the government needs to be opening the way. And it's not only the central government only, but the local government's importance gets high when transitioning to circular economy. Also the civil society, consumers, the academy, the innovation hubs, all need to be working together because this is really a complex transformation. So we need the involvement of all parties here.
Thank you very much. I think this is a very nice last word of yours. This has been a very fruitful conversation, a very interesting webinar. Thank you very much to each of you for taking the time, giving those incredible good speeches, and also answering all the questions that came up. I would like to give the word for a really short time to Eda Hanım from the Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Istanbul.
Thank you, Ariane. Dear speakers, dear participants, good afternoon. On behalf of the Swiss Chamber of Commerce in Turkey, I'd like to thank you all for joining us and participating in our webinar today. Of course, special thanks to our great speakers, Ms. Gulin Yücel, Nicolas Freudiger, and Tunç KARABAYER. Our speakers outlined key elements of their work on the circular economy and highlighted the necessary steps and preparations the future holds. Of course, another great thank to Ms. Ariane from the Embassy of Switzerland. We appreciate your involvement as a moderator, Ariane, and thank you for sparing your valuable time for this webinar. Before we close our session, I would like to hand over our small gifts to our speakers. Today, we talked about circular economy for a better future. And of course, for a better future, we need to protect our planet. So we donated to WWF in your name. Please accept our nice gift. And we will send you the certificates also by email very soon. We once again thank you to all who attended this webinar and also asked questions that facilitated this interesting discussion also. We look forward to your active participation in our coming sessions. Have a great day, healthy day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you, and see you soon. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. you.